Today we're going to be removing people in Photoshop. Have you ever been at a landmark or other tourist location and you find it hard to get a clear shot without other tourists getting in your way? Well, today we're going to be showing you how to remove people in Photoshop. For this tutorial, we're going to be using a photo taken at Alcatraz Island. And if you want to see more photos from this trip, you can look down in the description and we'll have a link to another video for you where it has a slideshow of the different images that we took mixed in with some video, and you can see what settings we used for that as well. I'm currently viewing this photo in Adobe Bridge. We're going to go ahead now and open it up into Camera Raw, which will then take us into Photoshop. This image was captured in RAW file format. In Camera Raw, you can make any adjustments to your RAW files, such as exposure, highlights, shadows, and other things that you may want to adjust before opening into Photoshop. Now that I've made my desired changes, I'm going to open the photo up into Photoshop. Now that we're in Photoshop, let's analyze all the problems. So we have this arm right here in the corner that we're going to want to remove. Next, we have this park ranger in the center of the photograph. His uniform kind of looks like a prison guard, so I might want to leave him. But I'm undecided on that, so I'm going to edit the photo both ways. First, we're going to get to work on this arm. Now, as you can see, both sides of the photo are exactly the same. So we're going to grab a selection from the left side and we're going to paste it onto the right side to cover up her arm. For this, we're using the lasso tool, and you can just go ahead and grab a big chunk of the image from the other side, making sure to capture all the important elements. Then what we're going to do is we're going to copy and paste it, and then so that it's a mirror image, we're going to go to transform, flip horizontal, and that's just going to give us a reverse so we can move it over to the other side and it will match up with the bars that are on the right side of the image. Now we're just going to pull it over to the other side and we're going to try to match it up as best as we can. So we can just move it around, trying to see where it fits in, what looks right, how it's going to line up right with what's already there. We might need to do some further transforms, pull it here or push it a little there to make it line up better. So let's do that. We're going to scale it up a little bit first to fill in the little blank spot that was left over on the right. And then I'm feeling like the slant of it isn't quite matching up. So when we're done scaling the image, we're going to jump into another transform tool, and that's the warp tool. But before we do that, let's zoom in on this a little bit more so we can see exactly what we're doing. Now we're ready to warp. So we're going to go to Edit, Transform, Warp. This is going to allow us to pull the image at any of these dots. So we can just grab a point and pull it to try to make the new layer match up with the original image. So we just grab it and pull it and tweak it, try to get everything at the same angle, especially since this image has these prison bars. You can really tell if they're going at a different angle than what was originally there. So we want to make sure that everything lines up and looks natural, as if the image was shot like this in the first place and we didn't have to remove this girl. Then we can toggle the layer on and off, as you see, to see how good of a job we did. Just toggle it on and off, making sure that everything looks good. And I think this is matching up pretty good except for this edge right here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a layer mask on the layer, and we can paint away the harsh edge that has been left around this new layer that we placed on top of the original image. Now, if you look in the layer palette, you'll notice that we have a white square over here on layer 1, and that is our layer mask. So since it is white, it means that everything is showing. If we go ahead and get a black brush, because black is the opposite of white, we can paint away the edge, and anything that we paint over with the black brush will then hide. So we can just fade out all of these sharp edges. Just paint over them with the black brush, which will hide them, and we can fade the two images, make them match up together. And then also, if you make any mistakes while you're doing this, all you have to do is switch back over to the white brush, and you can paint back anything that you would like to see again. If you went too far, just switch brush colors, and you can go back and forth as much as you want because it's just a layer mask. You're not really deleting anything, you're just covering it, and it's still there. So if you switch colors, you can make it visible again. So black hides and white shows, so you can just switch back and forth, making sure that any part that you want to hide, like those sharp edges, are hidden, and any part that you want to show is remaining. And then also you can mess with the size of your brush and the harshness of your brush and your brush opacity as well. If you just want to blend it, like in this bottom, we just want to blend the floor together just to make it match. Now that we have, you can see we have the floor matches across, and it looks like the cell is matching across, and we don't have any of those harsh lines that was left from when we copied and pasted the image. And to get a layer mask in the first place, all you have to do is go to layer, layer mask, and then for this one we did reveal all because we wanted the whole thing to show. Now that I've got the edges faded out pretty good, let's look at the whole entire image as a whole again. We can see how it looks with the park ranger still in there. And I think it looks good. So we're gonna call this version of it done. We'll go ahead and give it a save this way. That way, if I decide that I like how it looks better with this guy in it, I'll have a copy like that. And then what we're gonna get into next is removing this park ranger, because it could look better with no people in the photo at all. We'll just have to try it out and see. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna zoom in so we can get a better look at him. And the tool we're gonna be using to do this is the healing brush, the spot healing brush. And what I like to do is just get a pretty big brush, not overly large, and you just paint over the whole entire person. Now, it's important to remember that you need to make sure that you cover up the whole person. Don't leave any little bits of them remaining, because Photoshop will get confused and think that the part of that person is supposed to be there when they're not. So it's very important to cover the whole person. Another thing to note about this tool is sometimes it works really good and sometimes it doesn't. So this time we actually got lucky and it worked pretty good. There's a little dark spot that I'm noticing on the floor. We're gonna have to try to get that to look a little bit better. Might need to fade it out with the clone stamp instead, which is what I'm gonna try now. And then there's an area where in the back of the image, in the very, very back center, where it looks like it did some weird stuff, so we'll have to address that issue too. But right now I'm going to use the clone stamp, and I'm just working at a low opacity, 30%, and I'm just fading out the dark spot on the floor to try to make it match a little bit better with what's already there. The good thing about using the clone stamp at a low opacity, like 30%, is you can just keep working it and gradually build up the picture to look the way you want. It won't give you big chunky marks that are gonna look like they're duplicated from other spots of the image, or it's not going to create that patterned look. So I like to work at 30% quite often, and I can just sample surrounding areas that I want to use that are a similar color and a similar texture, and just slowly work away the parts that I don't want to see. So we're gonna just keep sampling and resampling and slowly fading away anything that we don't want there. Try to make the image look as best as it can, as if that person never existed. Make sure that all the lines match up. This part is a little bit tedious, especially when there are lines in the image. You need to make sure that the lines are straight. Another thing is you can see like a gradient on the floor from the way that the light falls and the shadows. So just making sure that all the lines and bars and anywhere where there's a shadow gradient, that you keep the colors blended correctly. And it's just a lot of sampling and resampling to slowly work away anything that you don't want there. One thing that can happen when you're doing all the sampling is the area that you're working starts looking very smooth compared to the rest of the image. You'll notice the original image has a bunch of grain where I was just pointing at, and it got real smoothed out where we were working. So what we're gonna do is add noise to that area right there. And we're doing this by, first of all, duplicating the background layer. And then we go to filter, add noise. And then what we're doing right now is adjusting the amount of noise. And when you're doing this, you just have to kind of remember how much noise was in the rest of the image. Then when you say okay to that, it will have applied it across your whole new duplicated image. So what you're going to need to do is cover it up by making a layer mask, which is kind of what we did earlier with the layer mask, only this time we're going to go to layer, layer mask, hide all. And then you'll notice this time our layer mask is black because we hid all. So you can just take a white brush and paint where you want the more grain to show through. So that's exactly what we did. And now you can see the whole image with and without the park ranger. And I think I've decided I like it better without him. What do you guys think? Leave your comment below and let me know how you feel about this image. If you like it better with or without the park ranger looking like a prison guard. All right, guys, so that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.